Welcome to the Leverage Your Potential podcast. This podcast is hosted by the Director and Assistant Director of Menlo College's Office of Internships, Career Services, and Study Abroad, Dylan Houle and Kelly Davis, in partnership with Menlo's Content Creation Club.
Hi, welcome to today's podcast of Leverage Your Potential at Menlo College. My name is Dylan Houle. I'm the Director of Internships, Career Services, and Study Abroad here at Menlo College in Atherton, California. And today we have Casey Porter, Talent Acquisition Manager at Enterprise Holdings Incorporated. Hi, Casey.
Hey, Dylan. How's it going?
It's going well. Glad to have you here, especially during these times and connecting with you remotely. Thanks for taking some time with us. Why don't you start by just giving us a quick introduction of yourself and your current role at Enterprise?
Yeah, sure. So my current role at Enterprise is I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager. So I'm responsible for quite a bit of the hiring of our fresh college grads every year. And I also run our internship program during the summer. That's not the role I started off in, though. That's just the role that I've been able to achieve. But yeah, I do college relations, university recruiting, and I get to work with 7 Bay Area schools.
Awesome. And obviously that's how you and I got connected, is because you're well known on the Menlo College campus. I believe we have, over 30 or 40 Menlo alumni working at Enterprise currently. So I know that you've established a great presence here. Maybe that's a good question for you. How did the relationship with Menlo College start, and when did you start getting involved with recruiting here?
Yeah, so, me personally, I've only been recruiting at Menlo for about the last 6 years. That's how long I've been in my role for. Prior to that, I was a territory manager. Menlo College was in my territory, so I had some parts in helping recruit and hire from the university. But Enterprise and Menlo have been partners for a couple decades now. So we have a long, rich history of developing Menlo grads into future leaders within our company. We have lots of managers who graduated from Menlo, and we are lucky enough to host quite a few interns every summer as well.
Excellent. You joined Enterprise as an intern yourself, which I know is a compelling part of your story when you're speaking with college students. Can you briefly describe your path from intern to where you are today as a talent acquisition manager?
Yeah, most definitely. So, my path is pretty similar to a lot of the folks who join our entry-level management program. I think probably what we all have in common is this is not what we all thought we were going to do. We all had different career options in mind. We thought we would be doing something else, but a lot of us started either in the internship program or found a company right out of college with just tremendous growth opportunities and a company that was willing to train and develop people into future leaders. But I actually graduated from Notre Dame Dana Muir University down in Belmont, and wanted to be a school teacher. That was really my goal. Lifelong goal was to teach. I wanted to teach high school history, U.S. governments. I mean, that's just what I had a passion about. And then one day, like so many of us, I met a recruiter on campus and talked to me about the opportunities that Enterprise had to offer. Willing to teach you and develop you, teach you about sales, marketing, business, operations. And it sounded great. And they were willing to pay me $10 an hour to do an internship. And I said, hey, let's do it. And so I did probably like a 12-week program. Then they offered me a part-time gig. And I did that for a year and a half while I finished up college. And then when time came to graduate, they said, hey, you know what? We want to give you a shot. Let's hire you into the full-time program. I was hesitant at first because I didn't want to give up that teaching career. But I said, let's do it. They were good to me. I really love the culture. I love the people, and I can really see a future here. And started off in the entry-level program back in 2002 when I graduated. Quickly moved up through the ranks of management. 2008, earned a promotion to oversee my own territory. And then in 2015, had the opportunity to become a college recruiter. And it's funny because now what I do is I spend a lot of my time in college classrooms, helping develop and teach. And that's what I wanted to go to school for. And so sometimes life goes full circle on you.
Yeah, absolutely. The career path that we envision for ourselves isn't always the career path that we end up following, but we end up being able to fulfill our passions anyways, oftentimes.
Yeah, you got to find it. Sometimes it's the first job you get out of college is not always going to be what you thought you'd be doing. That's why it's so important to take an internship and take it for a test drive and see what you think. If I would have never taken that chance to do something that was a little bit outside my comfort zone, that's a 20-year career that would have never happened. So yeah, sometimes you're not always going to do exactly what you thought you could do, but you'll find what you're passionate about. And usually if you keep your options open, you're willing to learn, you have a good attitude, that's what a company wants to see. And if you perform well, doors are going to open up for you. You're always going to find that there's opportunity in front of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, as a former aspiring history teacher and a student of history, I want to talk to you about the moment that we're currently in, a kind of a historical moment in and of itself with the coronavirus and the global pandemic. So how are recruiters and talent acquisition managers like yourself, how are you weathering this coronavirus in terms of your hiring right now? And how do you think students can prepare for entry-level jobs and internships this summer in the midst of this pandemic? What are some things that they can be doing actively to stay sharp and be ready for when things open up again?
Sure. And we know things will open up again. So that's the first part. It really depends on what industry you're in. I talked to a lot of recruiter friends over the last couple of weeks, and in some industries, there's a pause on hiring. I mean, it's as simple as that. And in other industries, logistics, healthcare, they are hiring as many people as they possibly can. And so it really depends on where you're at, what you're looking to do. But we've definitely had to adjust a little bit. One of the things I thought of the other day was when I teach workshops in college classes, one of the first things we usually talk about is how to give a firm handshake. And I don't think we're going to be teaching that, as much anymore. And so there's just some changes that we're going to have to do. But I think one of the great parts is how resilient we are, how quickly we adapt to change, especially college students, right? You got to change. There's always things that come up throughout the school year that you have to be willing to adjust to. And this is just one of those moments, even though it is, so much uncertainty. I think that's the biggest part that people are trying to wrap their heads around. But we know we're going to come out of it, and we're going to have to make some adjustments in terms of hiring, doing more interviews over the phone, doing more interviews over Skype, over Zoom, things like this. It's probably the future. It's probably going to be like that for a little bit, but we're going to adapt and we're going to come out of it stronger.
Absolutely. I love the positive mindset, and I couldn't agree more. Definitely a bright future is ahead, just a uncertain moment currently.
Sure, but I think we both agree that attitude plays a lot into it, and we got to be positive. We got to look to the future and control the things that we can control, which is learning new skills, making sure your LinkedIn profile looks great, taking the time now to start to set yourself up for the future.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you were talking about your own career path was stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit, saying yes to an option that maybe you hadn't initially considered by accepting that internship with Enterprise. I feel like all great careers are built on taking a risk or putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. And here you have a moment that's kind of imposing being outside of your comfort zone onto you, and it's how you respond to this moment.
Sure. I can think back to, I remember how excited I was in 2008. I got promoted to area manager, which I had interviewed for a couple times, got passed over a couple times, finally got the opportunity, finally beat out some other folks. And then the world financial crisis hit. And here I am taking over this business, leading and training and developing this group of people. And the economy, obviously took a big drop. So, I've seen things like this before. I was with Enterprise right after 9/11, right after 2008. And so one of the things that I've always noticed is that, yes, it's tough. Yes, we have to adapt, we have to change, but we always come out stronger. And so just speaking from history and living through some of those things, I know we're going to come out of it. We're going to come out stronger, but it's, like I said, it's the attitudes that we have and just keeping that positivity, which is really going to help.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, positivity is a good thing. Attitude, adapting, etc. But as a recruiter, as a talent acquisition manager, I know that you have some concrete advice for students on how to be successful in their job search. And so,
Sure.
given this uncertainty, but just generally, we're in spring, students are getting ready to graduate, students are getting ready for their internships. What do you think students right now should be focusing on when it comes to their job search? What tips do you have for them to be successful generally and obviously in the context of this moment?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I think we talked a little bit about it is, you may be taking an internship or a position that you never imagined that you'd be doing. It might be working remote. It might be working on a project that you didn't necessarily think you'd be doing, but having some history, having some work history right now on your resume, being able to add some new skills to your your LinkedIn profile. I mean, those are all really big. Even though we're all home and we're all learning from the field, distance learning, this is a great time to network. This is a great time to make sure you're visiting, other folks' LinkedIn profiles, you're commenting on their stories, you're finding ways to stay relevant, and you could do all that from afar. Networking doesn't just have to be going to a career fair. It doesn't have to be going to a networking events. You can do that all remotely, and you shouldn't be wasting your time. You should be really taking the steps to make sure we are set up so when things start to unwind a little bit and we start to free up and get back, I don't know if we'll ever be back to normal, but get to the new normal, you'll be ready for that. And so working on things like your resume, working on your LinkedIn profile, those are all big steps that you can take. And I mean, even if you need a resume reviewed, I mean, you're still working, I'm still working, we can still help the students out with that. And we want to be able to do whatever we can. But those are a couple big ones. I mean, obviously, even working from home and doing, learning a little bit more about Excel, you don't need to go, you could do some online courses for that. I mean, those are all things that are really valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love your point about getting active online and networking on LinkedIn. I mean, now's the time to build up your profile and start reaching out. And one of the tools on LinkedIn that I particularly like is the alumni feature that all colleges have. You go to your college's profile page, click that alumni tab, and you can see everyone on LinkedIn that's associated with your college. And to all the Menlo College students listening right now, I recommend that you do that and start connecting with Oaks in your area. If you've returned home to wherever home is, if you're no longer in the Bay Area, start reaching out to alumni that live and work in your hometown and your home country. It's a great opportunity to start building those connections while we're all
and really Menlo has such a vast alumni network all over the country, all over the world, and alumni from Menlo want to help students. They want to help other alumni, and so never be worried or afraid to reach out and to ask questions and to see if, hey, do you have some time to chat or do you have some time to talk? Just make sure you have some goals. If you're going to take 15 minutes of someone's time, make sure you have some questions that you want to ask. Reaching out to someone to say, hey, will you hire me? That might not be the best way to network, but it might be more of an informational interview. Hey, tell me about your company. Tell me about your job. What got you into it? That's a great opportunity to be able to learn. And, I'm connected with a lot of different recruiters on LinkedIn, and it's been really cool to see all of the recruiters that have put out their calendars to allow people to take 15 minutes of their time to talk about job search strategies, to talk about what they could be doing to help them for future career goals. And so it's really neat to see so many people willing to help and giving their time while also trying to get their work done at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, a question for your industry, the recruiting talent acquisition industry. Obviously, for those companies that have put a pause on hiring, that's kind of put a pause on those jobs in terms of what the day-to-day looks like. But looking to the future, we're doing Zoom meetings now. Virtual interviewing is becoming more apparent, more commonplace. Virtual networking events. Do you see any? And it may be too soon to tell, but do you see any long-lasting changes to how campus recruiting will be done or how students will be searching for jobs, especially if this shelter in place continues for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We've been thinking about that, quite a bit. And I think it might be too early to really tell. I mean, right now, if you think about putting 400 people in a gymnasium for a career fair. I mean, you'd think that you were nuts, right? And that's not always how it's going to work, but who knows? I mean, 6 months from now, what happens with science and vaccines and things like that. And so, but for right now, I think this is what we have to get used to for a little bit. And we have to make sure we're comfortable with talking to folks on videos and having those Zoom meetings and being able to network. That way, a lot of virtual things are gonna happen. I mean, I hope my company, you already know, enterprise is based on relationships. It's based upon having a fun work environment where you're working with great people and a great team. That's hard to do virtually, right? I mean, we really want to create a great experience for our summer interns, and we knew that this summer we weren't going to be able to create that experience, which is why we paused, which is really hard, since I started as an intern, but which is why we had to pause our internship for this summer. But we really want to make sure that the folks that we hire, we create a really great environment for them to come into when they start their career or start their internship. And so we were really thoughtful about that, even though we had to make some tough decisions. Yeah, I don't know I mean, that's sort of part of the uncertainty, right? Is the future and how that looks. But I want to get back out. I mean, part of the best parts about my job are the career fairs and the campus recruiting and the workshops and the educating and just being on the different campuses. That's a big part of what's made us successful. But I'll tell you, I couldn't be prouder of the folks that we have working on the front lines right now. We're an essential provider. And we have, frontline people out there right now renting to doctors and renting to county employees and state and local officials who need to get vehicles to get to where they're going. And so super proud of all the folks that are out there right now, making sure that we get the job done.
Absolutely. And, I've been seeing some of the stories that you've been posting on LinkedIn about those people. And I think Enterprise is providing a wonderful service at this time. And I know you will continue to. So speaking of Enterprise, we have students listening right now that are graduating in May or will be graduating in August, or who are excited about potentially interning at Enterprise in the future. What would you tell students about Enterprise in terms of why it's a great company to work for, and what's made you the single largest employer of college graduates? What's the secret to that success, and what should students know about Enterprise?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Thanks for asking that question. I mean, we have a rich history. We're privately held. We're owned by a great family. The Taylor family out of St. Louis has really built a great culture. It's a competitive, fun environment where you work with really great people. That's a big part of it. Is we don't hire people, to rent cars. We hire people to learn how to run a business to then move into future leadership roles. And so you're just going to work with people who are outgoing, competitive, really results driven, and people who are leaders, people who really want to impact the people that they work with. Yeah, we rent cars. I mean, that's what we do. But to be right out of college, to learn how to run a multi-million-dollar business, to learn how to market and sell yourself and sell the company, and how to be a really important part of a team. I mean, those are all really great transferable skills. But it is a great place. It's a little weird right now, definitely, but everything's a little weird. I mean, shopping at Safeway or going to Costco is weird. But it is a really fun place. It's just crazy how, a month ago, I mean, we were gearing up for our summer, for our spring recruiting. We were getting ready to go out and hire all these folks. But that shows you how adaptable we are too, because we've all had to adapt quite a bit to the changes that we're seeing. And we're heavily reliant, on travel, on tourism. And so that's some of the changes that we've had to make, recently. But like I said, we came out of 2001 stronger. We came out of 2008, 2009 stronger, and we're going to come out of this stronger as well. And I'm just happy, we are privately held. We're owned by a great family. And to see what they're doing for all of our employees. I mean, you can imagine we're taking some losses right now. And the Taylor family is committed to taking care of the folks that are out there working right now and making sure that they're doing the right thing. And so I think a lot of our employees, even though some tough decisions had to be made, unfortunately, we had to put out some furloughs and things like that. But for the folks that are out there working on the front lines, they're being taken care of. So, and, I don't think there's much more you can ask for, with the company than when tough times happen, How do they treat their employees? How do they treat their staff? Even though, like I said, some tough decisions and some tough conversations did have to take place.
Absolutely. I think the way that companies respond right now will show their character just as much as any individual person's response to this moment will show his or her character. So I think
Sure. Yeah, I think I saw something that said, a brand and what people feel about that brand is really being developed and being rewritten right now.
wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, on that powerful note, just a few more questions for you to wrap things up. We'll get away from the coronavirus and from recruiting.
Yeah.
One thing that we like to ask all of our guests on the Leverage Your Potential podcast is, what are you reading right now, or what are you watching right now that you're really into, that's motivating you, inspiring you, or just entertaining you?
Yeah. So I'm reading. So I have a 3-year-old. So I'm reading a lot of Peppa Pig. Definitely, I've seen a lot of that. But what I'm currently reading, though, is a Simon Sinek book, Start With Why. And I think that's a big, I wanted to do some personal, leadership development. I wanted to be able to do some personal, right? I want to be able to come out of this deal and say, hey, I was able to sharpen up some of my skills. And, you can never do enough for your leadership and to be able to help the people around you. But being able to, learn about the why, what makes you tick and what makes other people tick. And just learning about how communication is not just about speaking, but it's about listening, right? And as somebody who is out there in the field, who's helping develop these future leaders, this book has really helped me better understand how to help all of those folks reach their potential. And that's really what it's all about. And which is another really great part of our culture here at Enterprise, is the amount of work that people go into helping develop other people. And that's really the sign of, of a great leader, right? It's not so much about you, but it's about all the people that are around you. But he has a lot of great books, but this is an easy read. And it gives you some really good information and some really good tips that you can put into your daily use, your daily practice. What about you? What are you reading right now?
Good question. Well, thanks for sharing that recommendation. You've piqued my interest. I think I'm going to go have to check it out when the libraries reopen.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you my copy. I'll give you my copy when I'm done.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Drop it off. I'm reading a book called Ireland right now by Frank Delaney. It's a it's a novel, but it's really comprised of a series of stories about the history of Ireland, myths and some legends and some historical fact. They tell the story about how the harp was invented, about Newgrange, the rock formation out there. So that's been an interesting read that's allowed me to kind of transport myself out of my day-to-day life and sink into some fantasy and some mythology.
No, that's cool. Right on. That's the history buff in you. I like it.
Exactly. I knew you would resonate with that as a former aspiring history teacher. Well,
yes.
Casey, thanks so much for taking some time to join us on the Leverage Your Potential podcast here at Menlo College. Any final words for the students listening today?
You know what? I would just say be hopeful. It's going to be okay. It's scary, especially if you're plugged into the news. But take time out to take care of yourself. I mean, I think that's the biggest part is you got to take care of yourself. It's even though it doesn't always seem like it's going to be okay, it's all going to be okay, right? But it's you got to keep that great attitude. You got to keep the positivity, and take care of your loved ones and those around you, and especially yourself during this time.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leverage Your Potential podcast. Episodes are posted weekly and can be found on our blog at blog.menlo.edu/career-services/. Make it a great day.